Hi, friends. It's your old pal, host Eric here, hosting the internet program, Talking with Famous People again. Now, you might interpret this title to be read, Your Life Must Be Perfect. No, this title should be read, Your Life Must Be Perfect. And if it's not, you're failing. I demand perfection. I demand nonstop perfection from you and everyone else in their life. This is not like me being jealous and saying your life must be perfect. This is me being scoldy. Your life must be perfect. If it's not good enough. Hi, Octavia Silva. Your life's perfect, right? Don't tell me you're one of those unperfect life people. I hope not. No unperfect life people allowed. You hear me, non-perfect people? That's perfect. That's as close to perfect as you can get. One time I heard of somebody getting a 2.22, but I'm pretty sure 2.21 is perfect. I just woke myself up. Actually, the cat woke me up. The cat comes and plays love kitty, but what she really is saying to me is, wake up and give me food, kitty. So, she basically won't leave me alone until I get up and give her food. And then at that point, it's like, am I really still sleepy? Not really. I got a fair amount of sleep. I've been getting a fair amount. My tooth still hurts a little bit, even though I've taken these antibiotics. Just one of them, top upper left tooth. But just took a couple Adderalls, waiting for the drugs to take effect. Woot indeed. First I woot in the morning. My normal morning routine is to woot and then yeet, but on some mornings I'll yeet first. He just meows aggressively. Well. My cat will come up and I'll be sleeping and she'll put her paw on my nose. Go, what? What do you want? And she'll push her face a little bit. I'll go, okay, I'll pet you some. And then before you know it, I'm having a real kitty lovemaking session. Or it's just like, oh, kitty, meow, pants. Oh my goodness. And she's just going like, need, like with her paws. I love it when she does that. It's so adorable. That cat is ultra loved, though. Talk about a spoiled cat. It's like, that cat never receives anything but praise and adoration. And indulgence. Like, the cat has her own opinions about whether she wants to be in this room or inside the house in that room. And she basically makes us go back and forth, open the doors for her at her whim. And, she also likes to be outside some of the time. And so it's kind of like, being the staff to a royal person, like a queen or something. She is a very special kitty friend, though, I gotta say. As kitty friends go, wow. Right, well, that's the problem with cats is they are the king or queen, It's like you can't help but treat them like that. It has something to do with their meowy ways. they're unavoidably in charge. When you get a certain number of meows in you, you garner power and status automatically. Even the cat that's not ours, Trouble, he's quite entitled too, you know. He likes to poke his head in and go, "Hey, food." Of course, I rush right out there. Here you go. Right. This is way more adorable than a crying baby. Kitties are, the sound of a kitty meowing is way better than the sound of a crying baby. Nobody wants to listen to a crying baby. I mean, maybe there are some people out there who like the sound of that, but I don't think so. I remember one time we were driving to the park, and when Delilah was really small, I was still with my first wife. And no, she's fixed. Yeah, she's fixed. The neighborhood Tom is still hangs around here a lot. Trouble is what we name him, but he's waiting for her to go into heat, but she's never going to. You know, I don't think he quite gets that. She is a very attractive cat, so it's understandable that he wants to get on her, but he's wasting his time. You know, she's never going to go into heat. I kind of feel bad for him because he keeps expecting this chick to put out eventually, you know, but she's not going to. Can you imagine how frustrating that must be for him? He puts in all this time into this chick, and then she's just never down. I feel bad for fixing cats, but I don't want a bunch of kittens. Yeah, well, you might call him a bit of a simp cat, but I suspect he's humping other girl cats. I don't think he's like romantically obsessed with my cat. I think he's kind of a player. He's definitely an ESTP cat. He's tough. He's a bad boy. You can just tell by looking at him when he walks around here. Like, don't fuck with me. I still got my nuts. I've never pet him once, you know. He's that feral. He wouldn't come close enough for me to pet him. But he's a handsome devil, I tell you. There's something about a wild tomcat. This particular one, you know, who's gray and white and very handsome. It makes you go, oh, that's why chicks like the bad boy. I get it now. Because of this cat here, I understand. Yeah, the Tom that comes around here sprays, and it's annoying. I've caught him on camera before during the live stream. We've gotten a picture or two of him, but no, we don't really take pictures of him. I'll try to take a picture of him and post it so that you can see Trouble in all of his handsome gray and white glory. Of course, we've got a lot of guys coming around here for stuff. We've got a skunk, we've got a raccoon, we've got a peacock, we've got a stray cat. This is not including our actual pets, right? They all come around for food, for cat food. Everything likes cat food, you know? Possums like cat food, raccoons like cat food, peacocks like cat food, cats like cat food. Everything likes cat food. I go, hey, you're not a cat. They just ignore me. They should call this all-purpose food. I tell them at the Cat Food Corporation. They too just ignore me. All-purpose food. Your cat's fun because he's short and muscular and looks intimidating. But he's actually a loving love pants. Obligate carnivores. Well, that's why I try to get my kitty grain-free cat food. Yes, grain-free cat food. It's like regular cat food, but without the grain. That means it doesn't matter which direction you sand it. Since cat food has no grain, it doesn't matter which direction you sand it. Sand it horizontally, sand it vertically, you'll be fine. Yes, it was. Octavia Silva. Yes, it was. But I do get my cat grain-free cat food. It's more expensive, but she's very picky. Are you booing my joke? Hey, don't come to my comedy show and heckle me. Oh, great. Now I've got hecklers. I got banned one time after saying like almost nothing. I got insta-banned. I finished It's a Sin yesterday and I cried all night. Is it a book or a movie or a TV series or what? Like, Rachel was watching this one astrology guy and she had given him a super chat so he would do a reading about her. And I went in there and just started like being chummy and I got insta-banned. Vomelhot, listen, Earth, what are you saying please about? I don't even see anything except please, you won't get copyright. I swear, I don't know what you're talking about though. It's a British series about AIDS in the 80s. Everyone dies. That sounds like exactly the sort of thing that I don't want to see. It sounds depressing. I don't know what you're asking me to see. I don't see any link from you or anything. The first thing I see you say is, please, it's not a song. You won't get copyright. What this one? I don't see any of this one. You can't post links, so I don't see it. You have to put what to search for on YouTube. Even if you could post a link, I couldn't click it. I have to copy and paste it into a notepad and take off a word first. Wow. Sounds to me like you need to watch more cartoons, Lauren Cuthbert, and less. It says shitpost status. Is that the title of it? Is it about me or what? What's the name of the video of a cat? Shitpost status Hitler cat? I don't know. I don't see it. Boba Fett. I like the way you pull no punches. Sounds terrible. Boba Fett's with me. He's part of the group that's saying, you must live a perfect life. If your life's imperfect, you're failing. All right. Slash MHFL 40VN2RA. Yeah, I can see it. I just take the part after the slash. This page isn't available. All right, I'm done trying. Hey, girl. Sup? Sup, Gen X Heel? Yeah, I think we all need to agree to switch to the word gal, okay? No more girl. Just like women don't call men boys, we should call them gals, okay? Lauren Cuthbert, you're a gal. Winston's mom, you're a gal, okay? Do I sleep a ton more when I smoke weed? I mean, it's been a while since I haven't smoked weed, but it is the case that smoking weed tends to correlate with an extra nap a day. In other words, middle of the day, oh, happy Valentine's Day. All right, I'll paste the ending on YouTube search.
Hey, kitty. 9. It's Hitler Cat. Hey, Hitler Cat.
That's it. I see it. I don't know why you were so excited for me to see that, but I do see it. Horse Mumbler, good morning. That's good to know. So, anyways, I'm feeling kind of like I haven't been very productive lately. Like, kind of waiting for my teeth to get dealt with, but I feel good today. I feel rested and healthy, and took a couple Adderalls. I think I may have taken 3 of them. I may have taken 3 already, or I may have only taken 2. I think I took a 3rd one. But it's like, I'll tell you something. Speed really has diminishing returns over time. So it's like, when I was younger, I used to be able to borrow against the future with very little. Yeah, I'm taking them as prescribed. I'm being very diligent about taking the antibiotics. It used to be when I was a kid, I mean, I was in my 30s, like, or 20s or whatever, that I could take Adderall or even other kinds of speed, stay up for a few days or stay up for a couple nights, let's say. And the amount of sleep that I lost would be approximately the same as the amount of sleep I'd have to get to catch up again. It seems like nowadays, whenever I lose sleep, I have to sleep more than I've lost to catch up. So it's like, even if let's say today, I took these pills nice and early in the morning, so I should be approximately ready for bed tonight, I still won't feel rested in the morning because I'll have to get like 10 hours of sleep or something to get back to normal. I kind of have an ongoing, Razor M says my normal state is not being calm, but not being too stressed either. I have kind of ongoing stress, that links to this continual FI battle that I have, which is no, you're welcome to be a busybody, Winston's phone. I appreciate your SI management. It's fine. It's just it's weird getting older, Yeah, well, 5 of them are root tips and 3 of them are surgical. I don't know how they take out root tips, but after they take them out, they're going to put a bone graft, which is, and I asked them where they get the bone from, is artificial bone. But I have an ongoing state of kind of dread or stress that I deal with, and it links to time passing and SI stuff, FI stuff. Like, I watched this anime yesterday, that had in it a storyline of so these chrysalises get put into deep sleep for long stretches of time until their power is used again. And there's a storyline of this one guy who had been in this organization for a while and had the same girlfriend for like 60 years or whatever. But now she was 80 and he was still 22 because he'd only spent a few days with her every year. And she knew that she couldn't ask him about it and stuff. And it was so heart-wrenchingly sad. I can't remember sobbing so hard at anything recently. And the reason is because, of course, it links to my sense of the life I knew as a kid being gone. Like, my mom is basically no longer with us, and it's what do they say about smoking? I mean, they said, "Are you still smoking?" I said, "Yes." I said, "Do you have any plans to quit?" I said, "No." Yeah, it'll be fine. I mean, I know it's gonna suck ass for a day or two, but whatever. I had an equivalent, well, not quite as much, but almost as much, or a similar amount of work done not this past summer, but summer before, on the right side on the bottom. And I lived. This is a better dentist I'm going to now too, which is nice. Yeah, I have an ongoing sense of dread and sometimes sadness at the anime is called, it's not called Steins Gate. It's I think it was when I watched on Netflix. I don't exactly remember. I watched so much anime, it's ridiculous. I actually emailed a guy last night who writes for Crunchyroll, an American or a Westerner, or speaks English anyway, who lives in Japan, and I emailed him and asked him if I could interview him. No, I don't feel discontent. I think what's happening in general with me is that my FI is trying to speak to me more, and it's difficult for me to difficult for me to process, I guess. I find myself wanting to be the best son I can be for my dad, and it always being a bit of a challenge. So, like yesterday, Rachel and I were sitting out here, and my dad comes, knocks on the door, and he has gone to the store, as he often does, and this time he's brought us back a pack of steaks that were 4 fantastic ribeyes that, as always, my dad goes to like the discount section or whatever. So it was originally $60, this pack of steaks. It was marked down to $20. So he bought us this pack of steaks. And I'm like, fantastic. Thanks, Dad. That's great. I love that. But and then I said, do you want me to make one of these for you too? No. So I know he eats dinner at 6:00. And I'll get to that in a second, Octavia, so a little bit, but I don't remember what I was saying. Ow. My tooth hurts now. It's just this one. I just yank it out myself and save myself some money. Pick up a spray can of FI, be gone. If you wanted to talk about cognitive functions, Octavia Silva, you should talk about it in terms of like attentional manners rather than explicitly making it about Jungian cognitive functions or something like that. That you're very interested in understanding the different attentional processes and perspectives that people use and how they how prioritizing certain approaches correlates with deprioritizing others, et cetera, Yeah. I tell them you're in a leadership position in a debate and psychology community. That's nice and vague. Ow. Ah. schwa. Once you've gargled with or rinsed your mouth with hydrogen peroxide and you spit it out. Oh, we're finished the steak story. Okay. So, we planned. I said, okay, well, let's plan to eat right at 6:00 so that we can eat with my dad and chat with him over dinner or something, because I know he eats clockwork right at 6:00. So then I said, okay, I put steaks on, and then I said, hey, Dad, Bruce and I are thinking about eating with you tonight if you haven't eaten yet. I know you normally eat at 6. And he goes, son, I'm going to have to pass. And why? Well, because he had plans at that moment, He had planned to eat his dinner in peace, watch Rachel Maddow, and then watch Fox News, because he likes to watch both to get both perspectives on the impeachment. And he didn't want to talk with me and Rachel over dinner. So it's like, on some level, that makes me happy. Like, it's not like I sort of naturally choose to hang out with my dad because it's so fun, Thank you for reminding me about the Valentine's Day thing. I forgot about it as well. But Rachel did promise she was going to tell me when it was Valentine's Day. So, it's like I'm feeling all guilty. And so I make an effort to go spend time with them and stuff, and it's every time. It's like every time I suggest something or whatever, it's like, no. And then I feel like bad because I don't feel sad that he said no to this. It's like, it's like, I can't figure him out. He's a mystery to me that is beyond figuring out. But he's a wonderful man. I spent 50 years trying to connect with my dad, and I love him a lot, and he seems to always be one step ahead of me. I never seem to get the hang of him, All right, so it's time for the ceremonial first blowing rip of the morning. Yes, it's ceremonial. Oh, don't worry. This is just ceremonial blowing rips. These aren't real blowing rips. They're just for ceremony. I have no siblings, correct? I'm an only child. I have a daughter whom my dad treats like my sibling, basically. My dad kind of sees me and my daughter as equivalent. You're waiting for a friend to sell you weed. It's a shitty position to be in, waiting for your man. That's why we went to the weed store last night, because we were running out. One thing is, that was definitely the Jack. We got a bottle of Jack Herrera here. This is my favorite sativa. I mean, a straight Jack like this is good, but they have this stuff called Super Jack that I like a little bit better. But it tastes like vinyl tube. Tastes like vinyl tubing. We also got this Laughing Buddha. This is, yeah, me and my daughter are very, well, that's an interesting question, Mackenzie Hoffman. My daughter and I are very close in the sense that we have a very, we love each other a lot, you know? We appreciate each other a lot. Every time I spend time with her and she spends time with me, we go, I love spending time with you, to each other, you know? It always makes me happy when she comes over. And at the same time, she's an ESTP and I'm an ENTP, so when we're not together, we're not really thinking about each other very much. But yeah, I'm extremely close to Delilah. As closer than I am to anybody else, for sure. In the sense that I feel this very pure, I feel a very pure love for my daughter. Like, just having her around, I can just sit here and listen to her talk, you know, and be just happy at having her near me. And I have a lot of like proud father stuff going on, I guess. She's a good kid to have to introduce people, right? Because she's alive. Everything about her is very alive. She's engaged and interested and in so many ways just like me, you know. It's hard to talk her into doing things, but once she does them, once you get her to do it with you, she's happy she did it always. I'd love for her to come over here and live stream with me more, and she'd like to do it as well, but you know, it's like neither of us likes to plan for things really. My dad has kind of similar frustrations with each of us, and I feel horrible periodically because every time Delilah gets in trouble with my dad, I go like, whew, glad it wasn't me. You know, I don't think Delilah really has ever gotten in trouble with me. We both get in trouble with my dad, you know. That's what it means to be a man child. It takes some doing, all right, to be 50 years old and still this much of a man child. You got to really work at it. It doesn't come easy. Don't think this is all natural talent, okay? Yeah, he's great. I mean, I want to hang out with him, and I had planned to later after he's done watching TV go in there and ask him about what he thought about all the impeachment, because from what I can tell, I talked to him about the prosecution's presentation, but I haven't talked to him about the defense's presentation yet. He felt as though the prosecution presented a very damning case, and I suspect from what I've heard about the defense case that my dad will be of the mind that based on what was presented, they successfully made their case, and he should have been found guilty. But I don't know. I haven't actually asked him since the defense did its thing. He's very interested in all kinds of politics things, and it's weird. It's like you ask him, you mention anything, like, I don't know, Turkey or something. We mentioned Turkey the other day, and my dad, the country of Turkey, and my dad told a story about how back when he was in the Navy, and maybe it was the Army, I don't know, somewhere in Turkey, they talked about how the dollar was so strong back then that the regular enlisted men soldiers could all eat at the fanciest restaurant in Turkey, like Istanbul or whatever. Like it's pretty. My dad's done so many crazy shit, right? It's like he was in the Navy and the Army, and because he got seasick so much that when he had the chance to change branches, I guess he did. Can you differentiate the different things that Delilah and you'd like to discuss with her being an ESTP? I mean, here's the thing. ENTPs and ESTPs in a normal ENTP-ESTP relationship don't find they really have that much to talk about because they're both the extrovert, right? It's like an ESTP and an ENTP sitting around talking to each other. It's kind of like two people both waiting for an audience member to show up. Two performers just waiting for an audience member. With Delilah, it's different because I'm happy to be an audience member of Delilah. And she does most of the talking when she's here. And I mostly listen. And she and Rachel talk a lot, and they talk about stuff that I think is maybe dumb and boring. But when it's them talking about it, I'm perfectly content sitting there and listening to it and feeling good about just being in their company. Because they talk about girl stuff, makeup and shit, hair, nails. Sometimes she'll talk about, her new guy. I don't know what you want to call him. I don't think he's a boyfriend, but girl stuff. Girl stuff is what they talk about. It's boring. You're going to leave the Republican Party? You know what I'm going to have to do probably tomorrow or soon is actually join the Republican Party because I'm not a Republican. I'm not registered as a Republican. I think I'm registered as a Democrat. Maybe I think I am registered as a Democrat, but I'm not going to run as a Democrat. So I feel like the Republican Party needs a savior. Right? So, I mean, I'm not here to save the Republican Party, but if you are a Republican, that's a nice side effect of the whole thing, I suppose. Oh, sure, if you want to. I'd be curious. Well, CJ, normally I find conversations about shoes, clothes, makeup, hair, nails to be absolutely intolerable. But not when Rachel and Delilah talk about it. I love the fact that that Delilah likes Rachel so much. And, Delilah did not like Kimberly. Delilah loves Rachel. And I like that a lot. And I like to see Rachel and Delilah engage with each other because they are duels. They take right to it, It was World of Tanks. Is my mother's name Constance? No. My mother's name is Jane. It is, and knowing that I have Delilah's full endorsement on this relationship is nice because, she never lied to me about how she felt about Kimberly. So she made it clear that she didn't think we were good for each other at all and we shouldn't be together. And you know what? She was right. She was. But she also wasn't pushy about it at all. Because, she too has been in bad relationships and stayed in them for too long. It goes along with bipolar, I guess, But of course, she seemed careful coming out of her last relationship, and I liked that guy pretty well. What's his name? Already forgot it. The guy who went to Hawaii with us. He was pretty cool. He was very introverted, but he and pretty deferential to Delilah. But I liked him because of that, I guess maybe. I haven't voted in 2 presidential elections. The last two presidential elections afforded me no presidential choice to vote for, so I just didn't even bother voting. Prior to that, I voted in like every election. I feel as though if I just found it too depressing. I found Hillary Trump too depressing. I found Biden Trump too depressing. Right. You got to vote for the church sandwich. Well, I decided to not vote for either of them. And I didn't want to vote for libertarians either, Well, here's the thing, Boba Fett. I'm going to turn that around. I'm going to change that reality. In the status quo, a Republican has no chance in California. In the status quo, a Democrat has no chance in Alabama. Because, of course, every candidate is coming into these elections going, those darn Republicans, if they're a Democrat, or those darn Democrats if they're a Republican. I am not going to do that. I may be registered as a Republican and running as a Republican, but I am not interested in demonizing half the country. I'd be surprised to see my religious views listed as Christian anywhere. Well, yeah, that's my family. I don't know who those other people are. Who are Tung Hua Wu and Kai Ji Zhuang? Candace Strauss is no longer my wife. I make between $100,000 and $150,000 a year. I don't care. I mean, I guess maybe this one with my ex-wife's name in it. Just to be cautious regarding my ex-wife, since I'm gonna lose my primary to Nikki Haley. I don't even know who Nikki Haley is. I mean, the thing is, so it is the case that I apparently am currently registered as a Democrat. I am shocked to see anywhere it say that my religious views are listed as Christian. I don't think I've ever filled out any paper where I've said I'm a Christian on it. It's a fairly recent phenomenon that I started calling myself a Christian in the last couple of years, last few years, Prior to that, I was a deist, and then prior to that, I was a I guess you'd say a argumentational defaultist. That it's silly because we're arguing about something that definitionally we can't define. So why are we arguing about this? Happy Valentine's Day, Rachel. You know what color this shape is for you? It's pink and red and white. The colors of Valentine's Day. I would love toasted bagels. That'd be fantastic. I mean, as a candidate, my strategy is going to be, this is our chance to break this ridiculous cycle of reciprocal blame and agenda-based politics. I am not here to say the Republican agenda is what needs to be promoted. I have a platform that explains my positions on things, and I'm happy to answer questions about any policy issue people ask. My answers will fit into one or another box depending on the policy question you ask. So if you ask me questions about environmental legislation, I'll sound probably more like a Democrat. If you ask me questions about progressive taxation, I'll probably sound more like a Republican. If you ask me questions about the scope of federal power, in some instances I'll sound like a libertarian, in some instances I'll sound like a centrist. Talking about foreign policy, in some ways I'll sound like an isolationist, in some ways I'll sound like I guess what you'd call like a fan of moral hegemony. But it's like my role, my view of U.S. as global hegemon is complex. It's not like I think we should go kick ass and take names. It's also not like I think we should not get involved in foreign matters at all. I'm very concerned about the state of Taiwan. I don't want to see Taiwan become Chinese Taipei. I don't like the fact the U.S. is currently going along with this naming protocol. I think it's bullshit, and I want to put a stop to it. So, and I want to avoid killing. I want to avoid people blowing each other up, but not at all costs. So it's I want to make sure that any killing that's done is legitimate and has the moral high ground. I don't want to see the U.S. forsake the moral high ground anymore. People don't understand how important it is. It's like arguments matter so much, and people don't get this. Why was the negotiations with Iran, why were they doomed to fail from the outset? Because they were negotiations about how even though the U.S. has thousands of nuclear weapons, Iran's not allowed to have one, right? And we're going to negotiate ways for you to agree upon this constraint that we're forcing upon you. So it doesn't logically work, right? We have no moral ground to make this assertion at Iran, and we have no legal ground. In the status quo, nuclear weapons are not illegal under international law. They never signed any proliferation treaty. So we lose all the arguments. And of course, why would Iran go along with it? It's like any sane person who wants to evaluate what's going on there says, if you put country Z and country V in there, everyone will go, well, country V is getting fucked. Like, what are you talking about here? This is ridiculous. Why is this country trying to be all high and mighty with this other country when they've got thousands of things? But what? Well, I mean, it's like, okay, I get that that it's scary for a theocracy to have nuclear weapons. It's scary for, especially an Islamic State, to have nuclear weapons because there certainly is a faction of the Islamic world that tends to be into blowing themselves up for religious reasons, and taking a bunch of innocent people with them. But the thing is, if we look at the data, every other instance of mutually assured destruction has proved the determinant factor. So it's like we have examples of unreliable states with nuclear weapons, such as Pakistan or North Korea. And yet we don't see any aggressiveness with those nuclear weapons. There's no reason to believe, in fact, that even the most volatile and authoritarian and whacked out government in the world will actually initiate their own complete annihilation, which is what it would entail to initiate a nuclear exchange. So if North Korea were to initiate a nuclear exchange, that's the end of North Korea. If Pakistan were to initiate a nuclear exchange, that's the end of Pakistan. So it's like that reality heretofore has worked on every instance. In every instance, it's worked. There's not been a country that's been so crazy that having nuclear weapons makes them use them or initiate an exchange. So in that regard, I'm not sure why the U.S. is so fixated on Iran not getting nuclear weapons, keeping in mind that Israel has shit tons of them. You know, it's like, I guess part of the reasoning may be that some of the nations in the region are small and easily, I guess, nuked out before they can respond. But I mean, it's like, let's say Iran were to nuke Israel. Same thing as if Pakistan or North Korea is to initiate a nuclear exchange. Bye-bye Iran. They know that. Everybody knows that. It's unavoidably known. So I don't see why we have to fight so hard to prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. Keep you in a pen, huh? Are you sure they shouldn't keep you in a pen? It is. It is a pen. How about the Top Gun jersey patch fix? I have no idea what you're talking about. The only thing I have to say about Top Gun is your ego's writing checks your body can't cash. That's a famous quote from that movie. It's something you say when you want to sound badass. Like if somebody comes up to you and goes, "Let's go, bro," you go, "You better watch it. Your ego's writing checks your body can't cash." Like that. And they go, "Ooh," everyone goes, "Ooh," around you in a big circle. They form around you. And then there's pow, 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 fist fight. And there's exciting music playing in the background. Isn't that fun? That is fun. Pow, 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 they say to each other as they're fist fighting. I want to watch two guys fist fight, and like between or as they're punching, they're both saying to each other, "Pow, pow, 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 pow." Wouldn't that be funny? Seems like it would be funny to me. Childhood separation policy debate. I think she was a character in King's The Stand, The Shadows of the Obvious. What's childhood separation policy debate? It's like when really ambitious debate coaches, kidnap children, separate them from their parents at an early age, and force them to become policy debaters. It seems like it's very Japanese, and force them to dedicate their life to intense days of harsh training at policy debate until their hands are as hard as knives and can cut through a butterfly's wing. Oh my God, that's sharp. A butterfly landed on it and was split in two by it. That's how you know a katana is really sharp in anime. A butterfly will land on it, and it will, instead of having its feet stay there, it'll just slice right through it, right in half. Has anybody here watched Charge Man Ken? Charge Man Ken is a 1974 Japanese anime. And Charge Man Ken, boy, oh boy, it is. Our army of policy debaters was unbeatable. Unfortunately, the other side brought guns. Okay, well, the guns are supposed to to go in after the policy debate team comes back having failed. I mean, debate is tailor-made for anime. A debate team, like a high school debate team, you know. Charge Man Can, yeah, I watched about 4 or 5 episodes of it last night. It's like 5 minutes an episode, you know. Boy, whew. There's the thing just starts right in with no explanation at all. Okay, there's zero explanation. It just starts in with Juralians, they're called. These alien things that look kind of like 4-legged octopuses or something. They are Charge Man Ken and his little sister, whom he bullies for comedic effect, and this weird, like, comedic character with wacky eyeballs that go to different directions, and his head and arms pull into this ball, and he's there, and they both bully him for laughs, and then they're gonna go to the amusement park, and they find the Juralians there, and then Charge Man Ken charges up and kills them all. And like the next episode, it's like they're gonna have a picnic, and then the Juralians show up and he kills them all. The next episode, it's like the Juralians decide to use human-eating butterflies to kill all the people, and Charge Man Ken, of course, charges up and kills all the butterflies. It's like, I mean, first of all, why are the Juralians attacking? Second of all, if they're down to butterfly-based weapons, why don't they regroup? Third, did they bring they didn't bring the butterfly-based weapons with them either. These are Earth butterflies that used to be extinct that they brought back, but added on some eating parts on the front of them. And so, you know, Charge Man Ken goes on his picnic. I guess this is a picnic episode, and he sees all these people lying there being eaten by butterflies, and he shoots them all with his ray gun. It's incredibly awful. The episode after that was when I just had to stop watching it after that. Like, they're going on a field trip somewhere, Charge Man Ken and his class and his teacher, and they're on a plane, and then the pilot goes, "Oh, it's a typhoon in front of us. Let's head into it." For some reason. And then the next thing you see, they're somewhere else, and he says, "Oh, the weather's bad, teacher. We're going to have a bad time here." And then there's a mummy who appears somewhere on a horse-drawn carriage. A mummy. And then Charge Man Ken appears from somewhere for no reason and kills him, you know. It's shockingly, incredibly poorly done. Just really oh my God. How did this become a cartoon? You know, if you've watched American Hanna-Barbera cartoons from the era, they were awfully terrible as well. Terrible in very much the same way. But Charge Man Ken is really... Why he wears this weird outfit all the time. There's the episode where I forgot about this one. The really like creepily weird episode where the It's called the mysterious handsome boy. Okay. The episode begins with Charles Man Ken getting beat in an American football game by mysterious handsome boy, who entices Charge Man Ken to go to a construction zone where he asks them to show him his thing, which is his charge up, and Charge Man Ken refuses, and there's this back and forth that's so like you're talking about the construction one? It's just like, oh my God, what in the world is this? And then it turns out it's a jar alien and he kills him. It's like, where do all these continual flow of jar aliens come from? Why don't they gather in a larger group at some point to attack Charge Man Ken? Why do they always come like 4 or 5 at a time? And then, if that's his main enemy, why in that one episode does he attack him? Why does he fight a mummy? Where does the mummy come from? Mysterious handsome boy that's a classic right there. So yeah, if you want to be made to feel very uncomfortable in a construction zone scene, watch the Mysterious Handsome Boy. It's only like 5 minutes long and well worth every second. What am I watching right now? I'm watching right now Fate Zero Season 1. I don't know if anybody's seen this before, Fate Zero, but I'm watching it on Crunchyroll. I'm on episode 2. The first episode was long. It was like 40 minutes long. It's got 5 stars, which is good. I can't, if you go to shows on Crunchyroll and go look at them alphabetized, they've got so many different shows. It's crazy. I mean, the thing is, it took me a long time to get hooked on it. At first I was, hi Rachel Pachel.
Hi handsome pantsome.
How you doing? Happy Valentine's Day.
I'm good. Happy Valentine's Day.
Will you be my Valentine?
I would. Would you be mine?
I will.
Yay! It's official, guys. We're each other's Valentine.
Mm-hmm. We're going to go to the Valentine's Day dance together.
I honestly cannot remember the last time that someone officially asked me to be their Valentine.
Well, I'm officially asking you.
I know. It's a beautiful thing.
I'll get her some chocolate today. That's fine. Farm will hot till they have to exchange chocolate to make it official. So I will get you some chocolate today. Yeah.
That kind of does solidify.
I think you actually have to feed each other chocolate-covered strawberries in a really sensual way.
Ooh. Do we have Lionel Richie in the background?
We'll have Dick in a box in the background. It's my dick in a box. My dick in a box, girl. That's like the best thing Justin Timberlake ever did. Boy, Justin Timberlake's getting kind of raked over the coals in the celebrity media department.
Oh yeah, you heard?
I heard about this. He's having to go back and apologize for how he treated Britney and Janet Jackson because he didn't support her enough after their obviously mutually agreed upon breast reveal thing. I find it absolutely fucking ridiculous to see him, get right down there and lick exactly the butthole everybody wants him to lick. You know, it's disgusting. He should not be saying that. The fact that what he's saying is like just proof that he just whatever. He has no principles or anything, you know.
He likes to stick to the box. That really is the best thing that we've ever made.
Yeah.
BRB.
If you haven't seen Dick in a Box yet, please do. It's on YouTube. It's a Saturday Night Live thing, and it's a beautiful sentiment. And an inspiration to all men for gift giving, be it Christmas, be it Easter, be it Valentine's Day. Mothers are prolific in devouring, or so the poem goes. Mothers are prolific in devouring. I like that. You know, I need to keep a little notepad with me when I'm watching anime, because I periodically hear these great expressions or see these strange things or you know, hear bits of truth that I think to myself, oh, that's fantastic. I love that turn of phrase, or I love that whatever. And I really need to write it down so I remember it. No, I just need to keep track of like one sentence, you know. One sentence every few episodes, maybe at most. Something else to strike me as worth noting. I'm trying to think of a single example. This is the thing, is like it happens to me frequently. I remember it happening to me, but I don't remember the specific thing that it said, you know. Well, here's an example I've mentioned before that I can remember, which is I heard in an anime some characters say, words aren't for saying things, they're for talking to people. Which is such a anti-TI sentiment, you know. I thought, what a great example of an anti-TI worldview. Because, of course, I typically think the opposite. I typically think of course you mean what you say, because you say those words, and those words mean certain things. It's not possible to not mean what you say, unless you misspeak, which sometimes happens. You know, people go, I went to pet the frog, I mean dog. You know, it's like that's obviously happens. People misspeak. But the idea, the concept that people are trying to express themselves, and words successfully or unsuccessfully do so, depending on what they're trying to express, is not the you know, is something that a TI person doesn't like. The idea that well, I know I said that, but I'm not expressing myself well, but if you understood what I meant, then yeah. Words are for understanding. Talk is cheap. I mean, talk is obviously cheap because you're getting plenty of it for free right now. I'm not charging you anything to listen to me talk. Most people who like to talk would love to be listened to, like me. You know, I find it inherently a reward in and of itself to be heard and listened to. You know, to be thought of as somebody whose opinions are worth listening to. I tend to agree with that, Funnel Hot. Information should be free, but of course, that's not quite the same thing as saying all instances of media should be free. I mean, it is the case that people put a lot of work into making media. And it is the case that, like, if I write a book, you shouldn't be able to just copy it word for word, put your own name on it, and sell it and make money off of it, right? So there's some sort of legitimacy to intellectual property. At the same time, it's the idea of intellectual property is something that that is challenging, because the idea of you made it very uncomfortable telling over and over how nervous you were. So when people tell me that, because sometimes they frequently do, like when I do typing sessions, how you feeling? I'm nervous, but I just ignore it. I just continue talking to them, whoever it is. I just think, oh, that's that thing that sometimes people do. Middle-aged incel. You do know what incel means, right, Mike Jones? It means involuntarily celibate.
I was actually going to ask what it was myself.
Are you under the impression, Mike Jones, that I'm involuntarily celibate? I don't feel celibate. Rachel, do you feel as though I'm celibate?
No.
Mrs. Mom says, Chris Chapman, I met my celebrity crush, Eric Roberts, and was completely quiet and trying to be cool and not fangirl. Later, I realized he probably would have preferred fangirl to INTJs. You might be having sex, but I have incel tendencies?
What is it? Okay, what is an incel?
It's somebody who's involuntarily celibate. That means that they claim that basically they don't have sex because no girls like them.
Gotcha.
I mean, I have two ex-wives and
a current girlfriend.
A current girlfriend who's 14 years younger than me. I don't think that. I mean, I'm not worried about, like, if Rachel were to suddenly get hit by a bus or something. I'm not worried about the fact that whether or not I'd be able to have sexual intercourse with somebody. I'm sure I'd be able to if I so chose. So any celibacy would be entirely voluntary. Okay, Claude.
How are you with coffee?
I could use some more.
Okay, cool.
I don't think I've really ever met anybody that I was really like a fan of exactly. I'm trying to you're distracting. I met Tom Lear. Tom Lear is somebody he taught logic at Santa Cruz. I took logic with him. Barely passed. I was surprised that it was him because I knew of him from my mom's Tom Lear records before I ever knew the teacher at Santa Cruz, and that was kind of interesting. But I have never really met anybody else. I think that I was a fan of or was a celebrity or something that I got to talk to that I can recall. Yeah, I can't really think of any. I'm trying to think of some celebrity that I met sometime. I can't really think of any at all. I'm gonna not eat mine right this second. Thank you. I did see Jerry Buss in an elevator one time, but just for a second. I went to a Lakers game when Jerry Buss was still alive, and I was trying to go to the right floor that I was on, but I pushed a button on the wrong elevator, an elevator that is like a special elevator or something. And the door opened for the floor, and Jerry Buss was in there, and then some other, and he had like an attractive young lady with him, and then there was another lady who had like a walkie-talkie and like Staples Center outfit on, and she's like, you can't come in this. This is not your elevator, and put your clothes. And I was like, to Jerry Buss. Does that count as being a celebrity? I seen Jerry Buss in an elevator briefly for a second. So. He did wave back to me too. He did wave back. That counts.
That you gotta wave. That counts.
Yeah. So I was like, it's Jerry Buss. He was all old, had orange hair. kind of Los Angeles' Trump in a way,
I like that.
But nicer, basically a nice guy. He was definitely a womanizer, but he also had a daughter that he ended up making like the main executive of the Lakers, Jenny Buss or something.
Oh no!
In fact, she dated Phil Jackson for a while.
Really?
Yeah, Jerry Buss's daughter dated Phil Jackson for a while.
Wow. What an interesting person to date.
Yeah. So, and I believe the urban legend is, I don't know if this is true, but the urban legend is that one of the ladies he married at some point, he made her change her first name to Puppy. So she was Puppy Buss. But I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know if it's true. It does seem like the sort of thing like a Hugh Hefner type would do, kind of.
Yeah.
We watched a pretty funny episode of Mr. Show the other day where they were kind of making fun of the Benny Hill show and like stuff from that era. So they had all these, had themselves in like tuxedos with cocktails and stuff, and then they had all these girls around with like trays of drinks on them, and then like a sign that says like object. If you've ever seen the Benny Hill show, you know, it got canceled because even back in the 80s or whatever, it got heat for being sexist. This is way back in the day when shit didn't really get heat for that kind of stuff that much. But Benny Hill was just so, like, girls falling out of their clothes every 5 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
Of course, his song is the classic Madcap Caper song. But you know that song, that Benny Hill song? If you want hilarious Madcap Capers going on, you need to have that song playing in the background. You can basically put any kind of serious footage under that song and it becomes comedic. You know, you could put a video of a funeral, put that song over it, and it becomes hilarious. You just got to speed up the funeral a little bit and add a laugh track in the background. Gone salves. Don't touch my gone salves, okay? Please. Can you guys please stop fondling my gone salves? Rob gone salves? Oh, Rob Gonsalves, you've got a great name. My name's Rob Gonsalves. Rob Gonsalves? Yeah. Twin Peaks fans? I'm not a Twin Peaks fan. Unless the Twin Peaks are Rachel's breasts.
Thanks.
Sure, Rachel. You know why? Because I'm hot-blooded 103. I got a fever of 103. Hot-blooded, take it and see. I'm hot-blooded. I'm hot-blooded. Meow. Who here is hot-blooded? Do I have any other hot-blooded people here? It is Valentine's Day. If your blood's gonna get hot, today's the day for it to heat up. If you do have hot blood, first of all, get yourself tested for COVID.
That's actually really good advice.
Crib, we got an anemic person and a cold-blooded person. So far, no hot bloods. Damn hot bloods. It's those goddamn hot bloods that are to blame. Always getting so hot-blooded. You can tell who they are by their slanty eyes and kinky hair and translucent white skin. Wait, but that's a combination of different racial attributes, Eric. See what I did there? See what I did? I'm pretty clever like that. Hot-blooded ESFPs. I was kind of, and I'm not going to say kind of, I was shocked to see Carrie Fisher get any votes at all in the most recent poll. Which 70s heartthrob do you want to invite to the PTA meeting?
PTA meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to vote.
Your choices, if you haven't seen.
I haven't seen.
Your choices are Andy Gibb, Carrie Fisher, who's winning, even though she's kind of a bitch.
Wait.
Burt Reynolds is only getting 8% of the vote. Linda Carter only 15% of the vote. Christopher Reeves pulling in a solid 31%. I expected Christopher Reeves to be welcome to the PTA meeting. Carrie Fisher's got a big drug problem.
Just voted. Linda Carter is my choice.
Carrie's gonna bring the Coke.
She was a partier. In that book about SNL, she was a big part of it. She talked about her like.
Oh yeah. Oh
issues.
yeah. Carrie was big. Big on hanging out with Falco.
Maybe you figure she'll intimidate the teacher. Be like, I don't care what you say. I'm Carrie Fisher.
Yeah, I know Carrie Fisher's dead. When I say she has a big drug problem, I mean in the immortal sense. Carrie Fisher may be dead, but her drug problem lives on. Okay? Just like Falco.
Yeah.
Falco's still doing blow in heaven.
You know what?
Reeves is dead as well, yes. Also, Andy Gibb, I believe, is dead. So that makes 3 out of 5 that are currently dead. Burt Reynolds may still be alive, but you get 70s Reynolds. You don't get current Reynolds. Don't worry. You don't got to get old, bedraggled Reynolds. Carrie's dead because of her drug problem.
I would pick Linda Carter because I feel like my PTA meeting would be half than stellar. So Linda Carter would be like, I don't care, you know?
Well, I like how considerate Desert INTJ is of Linda Carter's time and energy, because Desert INTJ points out that he voted Carter because she's hot and lives not far from him.
Oh,
so he's considering how long is her drive going to be. And I appreciate that, you know, because he's not being so selfish to only think about his own. That's
all I am thinking about myself.
Yeah, Reeves is dead too. So 4 out of the 5 are dead. Only Burt Reynolds is still alive. I picked Burt Reynolds. I'm not allowed to vote on my own polls. But if I were to vote on my own polls, I would pick Burt Reynolds. I want 1970s Burt Reynolds with the stash and the bad attitude, rolling in with his cowboy hat on. I want him to drive into the parking lot in an 18-wheeler with a cowboy hat on and say,
yeah, I bet.
I'm here. I'm Burt Reynolds and I'm here. When I remember Delilah one time trying to ask me, she was trying to figure out what that guy's name was. She said, what's his name? Reynold Burns? No, you're talking about Burt Reynolds. Last night when I went into the house to go to bed, I opened the door and, of course, make some noise, and Rachel wakes up and she says, I was dreaming about my Santa mask. Because, and I thought, what a weird thing to say, because I had pictured a mask that makes you look like Santa Claus. Of course, she's talking about the face mask she has that has Santa Clauses on. It took me quite a while to figure out that, you know. But after she said that, she came into the, yeah, it's like this kind of mask, except it has Santas on it. So it makes a lot more sense, because she was wearing it earlier that night, than it sounded like at first. At first, I was like, what the fuck? I was just dreaming about my Santa mask. Santa mask? What? And then, you know, when she came into the bathroom, after she woke up, I was like, that's, if you ask somebody, you told somebody that somebody just woke up and said, I was dreaming about my Santa mask, you certainly wouldn't guess that they were 36 years old, you know? And she's like, I don't know, she said something that didn't quite gel with my concept. I was like, what, you don't actually have a Santa mask, do you? Like, yeah, I do. I'm like, really? I'm still picturing a mask that looks like Santa's face. And then I remember when we went to the weed store, she'd said, oh, I've got this Christmas mask. It's not, basically, she was saying it's not seasonally appropriate, you know? I realized, oh, she's talking about that kind of mask. I still am not accustomed to including this in my calculus for life, you know? I'm accustomed to having to wear it when I get out of the car. So I'm practiced in taking it with me, you know, and putting it on when I have to go into any place. But like just the other day, Rachel spaced out and went into a store with me and didn't have it on. And the lady's like, mask, please. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so. I'm not sure what's up with Mike Jones. Obviously, the spirit of Valentine's Day is not in his heart. I think Mike Jones needs Mrs. Claus to clasp him to her bosom and say, there, Mike Jones. Like that. Now the CDC is going crazy saying you should wear 2 masks. Fantastic. 2 masks.
Conversations are hard enough with one.
Why are we still listening to these people? I mean, nothing else they've said has been right. 2 masks is like 2 condoms. It actually makes you less safe. Does 2 condoms make you less safe? It makes you less likely to ejaculate, probably. It makes you much more likely to go, well, that was shitty.
All right. Responder of the morning.
I have more chance of ripping due to friction if you have 2 of them on. Is that the same reason with the masks? Because when I have 2 masks on, they tear from friction. Oh, not if you have ones like this. They don't. This is cloth. There are 4 people in Oregon who have the double dose vaccine and now have tested positive for COVID. Hey, no one wants to listen to Eric.
You're right. Yeah. It's going to be frustrating. Is it not?
I mean, it's less frustrating than if the vaccine had worked. That would have been the most frustrating thing. Mm. If the vaccine straight up worked fine and everybody got the vaccine and there was no spread of COVID any further, it would have set a terrible precedent. You know, it would have been the worst possible thing. Because we don't want to set the precedent that every time there's a new virus that we shut down the world and force everybody to behave unnaturally and put the onus on all the healthy people to not get sick. It's like, fuck off already. It's like everything's back-asswards completely with this whole line of reasoning. You know, it's like it's proof positive that if you don't use the right kind of reasoning, then you won't come up with the right conclusions. And they never use the right kind of reasoning in trying to decide what to do about this. And so, of course, it's all butt fuckery. Can you butt fuckery this a little bit more, please, before you're done? If the perverts were not exposed, we would never have heard of this COVID. I'm not sure what you're talking about at all, Fioko Gyuk. I don't think the vaccine is killing people. I'll take it as a very plausible claim. The 95% rate is plausible. That would explain 120 it not working. What is I mean, what a pervert. Which perverts are you talking about? And what exactly have they perverted? Is it the rule of law? Is it the spirit of brotherhood? You know, it's like pervert has become a word like ejaculate. Ejaculate doesn't just mean to spew out semen. It means, you know, to shout out something too, or a lot of different kind of yeah, you know. But oh, those people. I don't think those two things have anything to do with each other. Pretty sure.
Well, BRB.
I agree completely, Winston Baum. We should trust in science, and there's no reason to believe that the scientists are misleading us when they tell us that they're working on a vaccine, or that they've made a vaccine, or that they think this should work, or whatever. But that's not the same thing as trusting in interpretation. And that's the problem, is by and large, the mainstream media is not, as far as I can tell, explicitly lying in any sense about COVID, but they are all invested in some false narratives that were the reason the COVID narratives got so out of hand right away is in large part because of the pushback against disinformation. That this disinformation originally was seen to be a problem of the kooky right, people who think that there are crisis actors and conspiracy theorists and stuff like that. Of course, what we see is suppression of discourse is always correlates with terrible results. And in this instance, that's exactly what we see. There was no real discourse about what ought to be done here and why it ought to be done from the very beginning. And so if you want to say that we trust science, I agree. But like, that's why when I first said early on, look at the fatality rates that they're claiming, and look at the testing protocols. In other words, look at the methodologies by which they're gathering data, and we can conclude for sure that the fatality rate is dramatically lower than that which is being published and announced as the fatality rate of this thing, right? Was the mainstream media lying when they said a 4% fatality rate? No, because that's what the numbers showed at the time, given the fact that they were only testing the sickest people, and not doing any tests of the general population. Of course, that's the kind of number you're going to get, you know? Now, Winston's mom, what I would point out is what I just said right there, that's real science. That's real science. And I didn't do anything. I just said words. But it's real science because it points out that the reason science matters and works is because it's logical. And when it's not logical, it doesn't matter and it doesn't work. So, I mean, should you have trusted scientists or me at that moment? Well, you should have trusted me because I had the best argument. My explanation was, because I'm using TI instead of NI, I think things need to be before you put them out as arguments about things, explanations about things you expect others to listen to and agree with or validate, that they actually need to validate via universal standards. You can't just validate it by my intuition. It doesn't work, right? Your intuition might tell you that. So then that's your personal truth. But until it validates via TI, it is not a universally validated truth. Therefore, it shouldn't be afforded that sort of status, and it shouldn't be presented as an affirmation. The thing is, the scientists can tell us that based on these tests, everybody who had COVID at the very beginning, that they tested, of those people that they tested, 4% died. But it's up to us to realize that the shit we're being sold, namely the narrative we're being sold, that we ought to react strongly to this because 4% of people who get it die, is not correct, right? So it's a matter of it's ultimately a matter of the fact that arguments matter. Science supports or doesn't support arguments. Elite, Winston's mom, elite is like platinum. Like, so let's say silver's good and gold's like super good. Platinum is like elite. Okay. And then above that, there's like tungsten. Tungsten's like super elite. Then there's mega elite, ultra elite, ultimate elite, penultimate elite, and then ultimate elite. Well, then he's got a colorful way of saying the same sentiment that I once thought would be a cool bumper sticker, which is belief is the devil's favorite tool, or something like that. The last sentence of Gospel of Pantheon is never believe anything you read. So in other words, but it depends on if he's making a commentary on belief itself, or if he's actually saying that we should affirm the notion that we negate everything that we can't affirm sensorially. Then that's not an INTP move at all. Scientism is a threat to humanity. Well, look, what science offers us, and science is a legitimate thing to distinguish from non-science, is that it has to validate with other equivalently skilled experts in the field. So the idea of a peer-reviewed journal makes perfectly good sense when you're talking about, say, a math proof. Has Johnson actually solved the Bergenson conundrum with this proof? And you get a bunch of top-level mathematicians in the world go like, yeah, wow, hey, you got it. You solved it. Great, fantastic. Well, those are the kind of things that peer-reviewed journals are supposed to be for. Unfortunately, some varying humanities, social studies, these kind of things, I'm not responding to that. I'm responding to what Boba Fett says. Science, he says, has had a lot to say over the years. Okay? That's what I'm responding to right now. I'm not responding to your scientism thing. So it's like, if you want solutions, science will provide you solutions. If you want to build the internet, science is what you need. If you want to shoot a rocket in space, you need science. If you want to build a bridge that isn't going to collapse. You need science and math, you know. So it's best utilized as a means to an end, and least well utilized as purely a justification. So when we consider any issue that's being disputed, any affirmation and dispute or issue in general is being talked about, it's insufficient to say that which is unscientific ought to be excluded entirely. That's not correct. It's also not correct to say that because some scientist says something that we ought to agree with it. I have much more faith in science than I do in scientists. So, in other words, the thing I like about science is that you can look at the journal entry, you can look at the study itself. You may not be able to understand everything in it, but you can see basically what the methodology is. You can see how they approached it, and you can genuinely evaluate it. They make an effort to legitimize as disinterested. This is something that I got into a big fight with Legends Fall about, is the importance of the party who's presenting data to avoid even the appearance of interest in the matter. If you want to convince me that you're doing a serious job of thinking about something, you need to present your case in a disinterested fashion. No, Sean Ryan Barron, I'm glad you read it correctly, because some people might have read that as, oh, you must have a perfect life. No, it's you must have a perfect life. If you don't, you're getting scolded. Sean Ryan Barron, are you confessing to an imperfect life? If so, I'm busting out my wagon finger. Here it comes. Look at that. Wag. Now I'm gonna use my shaming tisk. You just got wagged and tisked. Anybody else want to confess to imperfect life syndrome? I can wag and tisk you as well. No, that just counts as INTJ. Does it INTJ asks the quintessential INTJ question? Is my life perfect if I'm perfect, but everything around me is imperfect? No, that doesn't make you perfect. That just makes you INTJ. Good. I'm glad to hear it. That's the first step to recovery, Sean Ryan Barron, is demoralization and shame. The 12 steps of Eric's 12 steps to recovery. Step 1, demoralization and shame. Step 2, despair. Step 3, resignation. Step 4, depression. Step 5, despair again. Step 6, resignation. Step 7, that's it. That's as far as we get. It's a 12-step program, but we only got to step 7. I tried to tell you something, but the screen went black. Can I repeat myself? I said that basically a whole bunch of stuff meaning you're wrong. It wasn't very important. I'm gonna get to you, girl, with my penis. Yeah, gonna get to you, girl. Gonna put it in you. Yeah. Penis put in that girl. Yeah. Today I was accused of being an incel, which I find rather ironic. celibacy. I don't think celibacy is bad, but I can't lay claim to it. I think it is bad for your prostate, probably. But it's like I had a solid year. Let's see, about 6 years ago or so, being celibate. I would never thought to call it either voluntary or involuntary. It was just like I started picking up sleeping with chicks was too much work. It's like if you're trying to date and not trying to be in a relationship, and you want to poke, you gotta put a lot of work into it. You gotta Facebook message this chick periodically with like little flirty things, and you gotta get a haircut, and you gotta take them out to eat. And then you don't even know if you're going to poke, right? You don't even know if you're going to poke. I can't wrap my head around how incel relates to portmanteau. I can't either, except... Oh, well, incel is a portmanteau of involuntary and celibate. In from the involuntary, cell from the celibate. So portmanteau in that regard. That's why it's a portmanteau, is because it's like made out of two words, like brunch, for example, or your mom's face. Which two words is it made out of? My cock. Yes, that's right. Fomalhaut's mom's face is made out of my cock. It's 100% pure Peruvian air cock. Fomalhaut's mom's face is 100% pure Peruvian air cock. So, don't spill anything on it. Okay. Who's Cersei Lannister? I want to know this Cersei Lannister. Who is this person? Why are they named Cersei? Why are they walking nude through the streets? Are they playing Lady Madonna? I mean, Lady Godiva? Are they pretending to be Lady Godiva while playing Lady Madonna in the background by the Beatles? Oh, Game of Thrones. Oh, I've not seen that. Cersei Lannister. The name Lannister makes me think of a banister on a staircase. Sliding down a banister. Makes me picture somebody sliding down a banister. Oh, Gen X, he'll caught me. He caught me in an imperfection. And he is appropriately shaming me for it. You're right to do so, Gen X-Eel. My imperfect life needs shaming. Sean Ryan Barron, do you know the park Cedar Point? Where's Cedar Point? Is it near Cedar Line and Cedar Curve? Is it just north of Cedar X-axis and Cedar Y-axis? Good morning to you too, Desert INTJ. Oh, I'm sorry, you're not speaking Japanese? Cersei was shamed? Well, I'm sure she did something to deserve it, like have an imperfect life. My name's not Sandusky, and good morning already. Oh, wait. You're not saying good morning in Japanese. You're talking about the United States in America. The United State of Ohio. Ohio. So, Atashimasu. I don't like roller coasters or any kind of amusement park rides. I don't find them amusing. They don't amuse me. I want my money back, amusement park. I remain unamused. I wouldn't even say I am bemused, but I'm not amused. That just means I'm confused by your diffuse meow. Is having illegitimate children with your twin brother, but claiming them to be the legitimate children of her husband, the king, worthy of shame? Yeah, that's shameworthy. That's definitely shameworthy. I was watching an anime where the girl in the anime, it's called the Grand Crest War. So it's like there's this blonde lady and this obviously gay blonde guy who are going to get married. And because I guess neither of them realize he's gay. I don't know. Nobody in the show seems to realize this except for any viewer with half a brain. Why does he have these gorgeous long tresses and girlish face and just zero masculine energy at all? And this princess wants to marry him. Anyway, in the show, she ends up separating from this prince guy and turning bad for a while. And when she turns bad, she aligns with this guy who says, "Okay, well, I'll be your sword, but you have to let me have you for one night." And she says, "Okay, fine, I'll do it." And she lets him fuck her. Well, in the end, when she gets back together with the prince guy, it made me very angry because she's like, "Yeah, I did this," and he's like, "It's okay, I still, it's fine, I still love you, just the same. Doesn't matter." Fuck off, dude. Tell that bitch to go fuck herself. No fucking way. No fucking way. But I thought that made me mad. Like one time, Rachel was watching Sex and the City, and there's this scene where the red-haired lady is like saying these really emasculating things to her boyfriend, and her boyfriend is like, none of it sticks to him at all. He's just this sort of perfect little bitch or something. I don't know. And so that really offended me. I don't know, because I've been in a relationship where the woman is out to hurt your feelings, and it's not pleasant. No, it's not worth watching, in my opinion. Well, I mean, Rachel agrees as well that it's one of those shows that hasn't aged well. Different shows age better than others, Sex and the City is too cavalier about its subject matter ultimately, and I mean it's for chicks, obviously. It's not for guys to watch, but I have moral objections to watching it in general, which maybe I wouldn't have at one point in my life. So maybe it's me who's changed. I don't know. I gotta say, I'm impressed with Mr. Show. I bought a season of that on YouTube, and I find it really, really ahead of its time. Like, those guys there's some impressive stuff. There's this skit on the most recent Mr. Show episode. It's kind of hard to watch, but it's called The Audition. It's like a Who's on First, but kind of a postmodern Who's on First or something, where the guy comes in. It's it's not Bob Odenkirk, but the other guy, comes in to do an audition for the two guys sitting behind the table, and he goes, "Okay, can I use this chair?" And they go, "Yeah, sure." It's like, "No, that's actually started. I started it already. That's part of the scene." And they're like, "Oh, okay. Oh, we get it. I understand now." Okay, so then he goes, "Can I use this chair?" "No, seriously, can't I use this chair though?" "Guys, I'm talking to you. Can I use this chair, please?" And they go, "Oh, yeah, please go ahead." Go, "No!" Proceeds all the way through like that until at the end, he walks out. Hey, they're like trying to not respond to him because he keeps trying to talk to him like that, and then he walks out of the room and he comes back in and he goes, "And scene." And he goes, "No!" It's a really, really brilliantly done piece of art, just it's so tense to watch because he's talking to them and like in ways that demand a response, but he keeps then every time they respond, he tells them, "No, this is part of the scene. You're not supposed to respond." It's really good. Bob Odenkirk, interestingly, I think probably last year was the kid's first year in college, so maybe a couple of years ago was the kid's senior year. But Bob Odenkirk's kid was a big player in debate, and so Bob Odenkirk you'd see his name on judging rosters periodically. Like he when your kid debates, the team needs to provide judges, and depending on what kind of school you go to, sometimes they'll ask parents to judge. And so he judged debate tournaments, but I never met him or anything, never saw him in person, but I've been at the same debate tournament at some few occasions with being in the same judging pool, but not ever seen him. Because, of course, you're in the same judging pool. It means you're never in the same room at the same time because you're always judging different rounds. I might be able to attend too. I would like to go to Ohio. When is it going to be? I don't know what his record as a lawyer was. But yeah, he was a debate judge. I'm sure he was a good judge. I didn't know he was a lawyer. Was Bob Odenkirk a lawyer? Oh, yeah, that's right. He is. I forgot about that. It's funny. I never put that together. Yeah, well, we're talking about a debate judge at a debate tournament. You get some pretty scrubby judges at debate tournaments, depending on what kind of tournament it is. It's like Jenny's mom is not a good debate judge. Let me just tell you that in general. But if you go to, that's why this thing called TOC, Tournament of Champions, only certain tournaments have bids for TOC, and only in certain events. So it's like if your tournament is afforded bids by TOC, then those TOC events are going to have nothing but fully qualified judges in them, because that's how you earn those bids of the tournament, is to make sure that you are on point regarding all the judging and stuff. They're not going to have any Jenny's moms, In a fully correctly run debate tournament, every judge has a paradigm up on tab room, and every debate team entering the tournament does prefs. Let's say they rank all the judges who are registered at 1 through whatever, and then every other entry does as well, and then the prefs are used to assign judges to rounds. So if I'm debater A and I'm debating debater B in room C in round 4, the judge is going to be somebody that we both ranked as highly desirable, both ranked as lowly desirable, or both ranked as medium desirable. So, like, Famo Hot says, I'd be a terrible, referring to himself, I'd be a horrible debate judge. Why do you think that's the case, Famo Hot? I mean, what's really required in being a debate judge is more than anything, the ability to put aside your own perspective on the issue at hand and just have a perspective on who wins the debate. Oh, well, yeah, then you would be a terrible debate judge. That's true. If you just went with what you agreed with. The thing is, yeah, I've judged around where that happened, where I was the squirrel judge. One lady voted the wrong way due to sort of misapplied good at well-intentionedness. In other words, a lot of knowledge is a great thing. A little knowledge can be a dangerous thing, right? She had just enough knowledge to know that, as a general rule, if Team B wins framework, then they're going to have a better chance of winning the round, because usually framework's determinant cascades down, and a person's more likely to win under their own framework than the other team's framework. So if you win framework, you've got a much better chance of winning usually. Well, this round that I judged, which was finals, the team that actually won the round conceded framework in the last speech because it was irrelevant, and were right to do so. You know, it was like, so what? Give them framework. Let's say they win framework. It's fine, because we still went under their framework. We went under our framework, and we went under their framework. We clearly win no matter which framework you choose. I agreed with them on this point. But this lady next to me, who was, like I said, a little knowledge went a long way, voted for the other team, saying, well, you guys said you lost framework, so, or that you conceded framework, so. And it was just like, oh, this lady, okay, well, she's trying. But then the other judge, it was a three judge panel. The other judge then proceeded to vote for the wrong team. And all of the reasons he listed for voting for the wrong team were his own reasons why their position on the matter was correct, not arguments that they had made in the round at all. It made me furious. I stood up because it was 1-1 going into him, right? She gave she disclosed, I vote neg. I disclosed, I vote AF, obviously, or whichever it was, the other way around or something. And then the third judge is like, oh, I vote with the lady. And all the reasons he gave were his own reasons for holding the position he does on the policy question at hand. And none of those things he said were things that the debaters actually said in the round. And I stood up, I'm like, those are your arguments, not theirs, and stormed out of the room. I was mad. I had to go give him my bow and say, I made a horrible fucking decision in this round. Those two scrubs. It's like the two worst case scenarios. You get a lady who's got a little information and is trying her best. That's dangerous. And then you got a guy who's an expert in the subject matter and knows nothing about debate. That's your worst case scenario, right? That guy was like a JPL guy, like a Jet Propulsion Lab. And it's, I don't know, I guess he like worked with NASA or something. But Yeah. Or the other kind of worst judge is smug college student who thinks they're here to teach the middle school or high school students about stuff because they're wise adult college students. When the debaters are always like, if they're just random college kids or like speech college kids, the debaters are always way smarter and more knowledgeable than these college kids who are coming in and trying to lecture them in RFDs after a debate round that they misjudged, you know? Was there ever a one perfect debate moment in your career debate where everything went perfectly and you impressed even yourself? I mean, I've had those speeches occasionally. Usually, I mean, not in actual competition, but in demoing stuff for kids. Back when I used to have assistant coaches, we periodically demo a topic, and I just demo speeches for the kids sometimes. So every speech in debate has a name. In policy, you've got the 1AC, which is the first AF constructive, the 1NR, the 2AC, the 1NC, the 2. I mean, I don't remember them all, but there's all these speeches, right, that have a name. In LD, you've got the AF constructive, then the neg rebuttal constructive. In between, you got a cross examination, and each of those speeches is a different piece of art, like a different medium of art. So, an opening speech, an AF constructive, is typically written out all the way. So you're not really freestyling anything, right? Whereas all the other speeches involve some freestyling / you're being responsive to stuff on the flow. So you don't know coming into the round how you're going to do any speech but the very first speech. You can't really know, you know? So there have been occasions where I have to give, say, a 4-minute rebuttal in public forum and demo it, and I just absolutely kill it. And I go, I will never do it that well again. Just like that. That's perfect. And it's pretty satisfying when it happens, you know? Or same with one of the hardest speech in all of debate to nail is the 1AR in LD. So first what happens is AF has a 6-minute speech. Then neg crosses AF. Then neg has an 8-minute speech. Neg has an 8-minute speech. And then AF has a 4-minute speech. And then neg has a 6-minute speech, and then AF has a 3-minute speech. So they total 14 minutes each. And the thing is, that second AF speech, which is only 4 minutes, following the first neg speech, which is 8 minutes. There's a lot of debate memes about this, where if you've ever seen that meme where Hitler's going like this, and he's like, but my troops, and they're like, these ones are, but how is it possible? They have this meme for the 1AR and LD, which is basically, but he spent 8 minutes destroying my AF, building a critique, and running, a counter plan. How in the hell am I supposed to cover all this flow in 4 minutes, basically, is the gist of the meme, It's considered the hardest speech in all of debate. So sometimes I kill that speech and I feel pretty good about myself. If you can kill a 4-minute AF in the AF speech in LD, then you've accomplished something, because the negs had 8 minutes to both dismantle your case, which you need to rebuild in that 4 minutes, plus make their own case, which you need to answer in that 4 minutes. And it's critically important that you answer any independent offense they present in the neg. So typically a neg LD will spend 3 minutes, on case and maybe 5 minutes off case in the first NR. So, which means they spend 3 minutes dismantling your case, but you have to rebuild. And then they spend 5 minutes building independent offense, but you have to answer. So it's a lot of work it's more work than really can conceivably be done in the second F speech, unless the AF does everything right. I've also heard my former assistant coach and national champion coaching coach of Peninsula, Scott Wheeler, told me one time that in LD, if the AF does everything right, they should win every round. But it's very difficult to do everything right. And I kind of agree with that, because at the end of the day, the AF has a chance to establish their case, and then they have the first and last speech. So, if you kill it, you should win on AF. But the reality is, NEG's given kind of a strategic advantage by being able to switch over to AF, essentially, in terms of the offense-defense flow in the second AF speech. Yeah, there's a wiki, in fact, Winston's mom, and there are critiques that say, if you're not disclosing everything you read in the round ahead of the round on the wiki, then you should lose the round. Most top-level debaters do disclose all the cards they're going to read before the round. They disclose their AFs anyway, just their AFs, not their NEGs. Disclosure is only on AF. So AF has to disclose. NEG doesn't disclose because NEG is going to be responding to specific AFs. So you can't disclose before the round exactly. Although by the logic of it, you could, because the thing is, because NEG's not required to look at the wiki ahead of time and research the AF, there can't be a reciprocal burden on the NEG to disclose. Anyway, there is a wiki, and most top debaters do disclose to avoid that K. And you just have to disclose your cards, not your reasoning. So any piece of evidence you're going to read in the round should be up in the disclosure. Most people disclose their if it's in policy debate, disclose what's known as their plan text as well. So you can debate, you can study up on your opponents, you can prepare for their case. Even in tournaments where there's not a wiki disclosure, teams scout. So it's like, if you've got a big team and you've got 3 entries in octafinals, one in LD, one in policy, one in public forum, you have the public forum kids who didn't break go watch the other teams in public forum. You got the LD kids who didn't break go watch the other LD entries that aren't your kid debating. And then you see who, and they each come back with their flows to you. And say, okay, give me the flow from room 422. And who was in charge of that? Jody, you're in charge of that. God, I hate your handwriting. That's fine. Here, this is what they're running. And then you go over with your kid before the round, So that sometimes that can bite you in the ass, as it did at Marlboro with me. I prepped them out for the Harvard Westlake case, and they fucking 180'd on me in the out round. It was all Harvard Westlake kids in octas, except for my kid and one Marlboro kid. Every Harvard Westlake, if my kid hadn't beat one of their best kids in an earlier round with my incredibly nuanced neg, then they would have come close to closing out. Anyway, after I prepped them for the Harvard Westlake case, they ran their neg counter plan as an AF plan And my kid didn't run a proper theory shell with his topicality arguments, and so the judges, who were all like experienced policy judges and debaters themselves, didn't give the round to my kid because he didn't run a proper shell with his T block. And so, that was my fault, because I had never taught him how to do a proper T shell, because we didn't run into much non-topicality. Like, people typically ran topical AFs, or they were topical enough that it wasn't worth running T on. People often don't vote on T if it's iffy. The topicality is one of those things where, in policy debate, or sometimes in LD, depending on style you've seen, no matter what you run, some people on neg will always run topicality. So, for example, the policy topic is where topicality most makes sense. If they have they don't have a resolution, but they have a topic area. So it says something like, resolve, the U.S. should substantially increase funding and public infrastructure. Then you could run topicality substantial, which means you're saying their plan would be topical, except it doesn't substantially enough increase something. Substantial we define as this, and theirs is not substantial enough. Sometimes they use the word like significantly, or sometimes a topic area will say something like increase support for, and then they'll say this thing that you're providing isn't really support. Support is defined as meh. So a lot of topicality arguments are bullshit, right? But in that instance, they were running a completely non-topical counterplan, a neg counterplan, which means they normally were running it on neg, so that that affirming the counterplan has to be exclusive of affirming the resolution in LD, or else it's not a counterplan. You're just affirming for the AF, right? So they were running a totally non-topical counterplan. My kid, whom I had spent all the time prepping for their actual topical plan or topical case, split the difference. He went with what I had prepped him out for and modified it to fit what they were running, and said it was non-topical. And I was just like, ENTP loose here. Not necessarily, ENTPs don't necessarily do a good job of improvising when they go in with a plan and it's blown up instantly by being outsmarted by the other coach, right? So my kid was not quick enough to shift gears entirely, because he liked the argument I'd prepped him for. So he did successfully adapt it to what they were saying, sort of, but it didn't work with what they were saying. So it was a stretch. He was too adaptable, INTJs are great at improving the debate over time, and improving relatively quickly too. INTJs are great to coach because they both want to learn it the best way. So in other words, they're not, unlike INTPs, they're not always operating under the assumption that even though they're a sixth grade kid, really they're smarter than you are, coach, and really they know best. Your INTPs, doesn't matter how old they are, they think they know best about all of the issues. That they are not going to let anybody else's thought processes function as a heuristic for their own and anything. So including, like, if I'm coaching an INTP kid as a debater, they're skeptical, very skeptical of what I'm telling them all the time. It's like, just do what I tell you to do, for fuck's sake. You're a little kid. I've been doing this for years. Yeah, but last time it's this SI thing, right? A judge told me last time that and so now all of a sudden they think, okay, they've got to account for I'm like, don't listen to that judge. They were wrong. Yeah, it would still cost me the round. Okay, but you don't want to adjust what you're doing to avoid that and be less good for correct judges, in the process. You're going to have to sacrifice. You can't have all potentialities. If you want to avoid that stupid judge making that stupid decision for that stupid reason, then you're going to have to spend some time on that stupid reason, explaining why that stupid reason is not a good reason to vote for you. And then that time is not spent doing something else. Debate gives you a limited amount of time. And the INTP is like, well, I'll just go faster. I'll just fit it more in. Well, okay, you're losing cogence though. And because, even if it's a format that favors speed, like policy debate or Lincoln Douglas, both at high levels, the judges are expected to be comfortable with spreading, speed reading. So that's why they flash over the cards and shit anyway. So it's not like you're having to follow it auditorily. You can read along with them. But the thing is, it's that countervalue deny. In debate, you need to have a clear, you have to be a kind of monster, right? It's like you're either a paladin or a magic user or a troll or whatever your case is, whatever your approach is, you got to have one. And you can't constantly be avoiding getting caught on something. You have to be the best defense is a good offense. Spiking is a questionable strategy in debate. Spiking out stuff means saying ahead of time, like, now look, my opponent who I haven't heard talk yet about this might say meow. If they do say meow, respond to it with meow. That's spiking something out. It's a questionable tactic. It's usually only useful if you know that your particular tank has a vulnerable spot right here, and you need to add some extra armor around it or something. Then it's kind of worthwhile spiking stuff out, maybe. But in general, it's trying to be too controlling over the debate round. It's like, be okay with the fact that you'll find out what your opponent's doing when they say what they're going to say, and then you're going to be able to figure out how best to respond to it in the time that you have for prep and or in the moment. You're going to have to understand. If you understand everything well enough, you don't need any prep time. You know exactly what the response is and why. You may not be able to pull up the piece of evidence in your mind. You may have to spend some time, reading some things from a piece of paper, but if you understand all the arguments well enough, you should understand exactly how to respond to just about everything you encounter in a round. And that's what a debate coach does, is they try to get their kids to understand all the possible likely argumentation that's going to occur and how they should respond to it. In other words, why they're right. Of course, sometimes as a debate coach, you got to prep your kids out with stuff that's actually not right. And you go, now look, this is not actually correct, but it's the strongest strategy for right now, given time constraints and stuff. Because some arguments that are correct are too lengthy to explain to be effective debate arguments. Like, I really couldn't use cognitive functions to effectively debate anything because it would require too much explanation. There's too little generalized knowledge about it or even consensus about it. So if I were to try to appeal to the reality of cognitive function stacks, limiting the different ways in which people can engage with information and use that reality in some way in a debate round, it would not be a good strategy because it is too time intensive. It's what in debate we call a time suck. Usually, if you're talking about a time suck, though, you're accusing your opponent of being abusive, running some argument that's purely designed to make you waste time on it, and then revealing that they were never going to go with that argument anyway or something. Like they kick it right away after you spend a whole bunch of time on it. So, you go, they never intended to argue that anyway. It's just time suck. That's an abusive, sort of tricky strategy equivalent to like if you ever seen those football plays, which they recently made this illegal in football, where the guy who's wearing the green uniform when they're playing the home game, if they've got the same color green painted on the end zone, he'll lie down on it so that he blends right in and nobody on the other team sees him. And then everybody goes to the other direction as that guy fakes like he's catching the ball. And then this guy pops up at the last second and catches it and runs, and there's nobody over there. They made that illegal in football recently. To accuse someone of a time sucking debate is equivalent to saying they did that. They did that right there. And that's not cool. So I do translate abstract thought into concrete words well. I'm a good teacher. You know, it's like I have to take complicated ideas and explain them to young kids. And I was always head and shoulders above the other ones, the best elementary debate coach. One of my public forum teams won both elementary tournaments for 8 years running. That's pretty crazy. I never that's by far the most impressive sounding accomplishment, I think, of my career. And in the local elementary league, I won every single tournament, which is 2 a year, in public forum for 8 years running. And before finally Mike beat me, I think. And some of those were like, juggernaut squad wins, but some of them were, I had one team entered and wishing a prayer, So I definitely am good at conveying what people consider to be complicated information to people that they might not think are ready to learn it, and to prove that they are in fact capable of learning it and arguing it well. It requires a lot of both repetition and different angles of approach. So explaining things multiple times, but in slightly different ways each time helps. Also, when you have a clear specific phrasing you want to hammer home, repetition very much helps. And phrasing is super important in debate. It's like whether you answer a question it's like if somebody asks a question like, so when you say meow, is that a form of meow? Typically, the best answer is, well, what I said was meow is meow. In other words, don't let them convert what you're saying into something else, right? Just repeat what you said. So I want to get them to practice that. I'll get them to repeat that. I'll keep trying to rephrase their thing. So when you say that it's physical, you mean that it has physical attributes like weight or mana? Well, what I said was that it's physical because it's subject to the law of non-contradiction. Okay, and you find that as I think cannot both be and not be in the same time, place, and context. And then, okay, so does that mean then that you're saying that stuff that's physical is like rocks and stuff? No, what I said was that physical stuff is stuff that's not subject. It's stuff that's subject to the law of non-contradiction. So in other words, don't let them. They want to convert it to meow. They want to convert your argument, whatever it is, your word, into a different word. For example, you're trying to argue. You're trying to argue that we should affirm making nuclear weapons illegal internationally. And they say, so are you saying that every country should get rid of all their nuclear weapons? No, I just said we should make it illegal internationally. That doesn't mean that I believe making it illegal internationally will cause all nations to get rid of all nuclear weapons. That doesn't mean I think that all nations getting rid of all nuclear weapons is a good idea. It means that I think that making nuclear weapons illegal internationally is a good idea. But why? Well, then you have your reasons, right? But the thing is, you don't let them conflate your limited scope claim with a larger scope claim. So if I'm claiming that we should make nuclear weapons illegal internationally, that's not the same thing as saying all nations should get rid of all nuclear weapons. I mean, that's what the law will say, maybe, but that doesn't mean that's what I'm advocating for. I can be arguing that given the way that nations relate to international law, making this law will change the discursive landscape without actually changing the reality very much. It will preclude things like the cognitive dissonance of the United States telling Iran not to get a nuclear weapon. Well, it depends how it's written. So let's just follow a law that makes all nuclear weapons illegal and that requires countries that currently have them to follow a timetable of disposal of nuclear weapons is a law that would both allow the status quo to persist for some time, make nuclear weapons illegal internationally, and make those who have nuclear weapons still in compliance with it as long as they follow the timetable. So in that instance, for example, you wouldn't be rendering nuclear armed countries into outlaws. You'd be until unless after they fail to follow that timetable. However, the point that I would make also is that the purpose of rendering the matter into international law is to determine who has the moral high ground. So it's like, in fact, this will allow the United States to insist that Iran not get a nuclear weapon while sustaining the moral high ground as long as it follows the timetable. Now, once it doesn't follow the timetable, then it loses the moral high ground, and it can no longer meaningfully scold Iran either, because Iran has the moral high ground as long as they don't have a nuclear weapon. They can say, "You're the criminal, you're the outlaw, you need to change, not us." They no longer. It gives them ammunition for staying nuclear free. Whereas in the status quo with nuclear weapons legal, they have, well, sure, when you're talking about international law, it's not confusing legality with moral high ground. The two things are the same. So in other words, because international law doesn't have any actual enforcement mechanism, like there is, for example, in international law, a distinction to be made, and they do make it in international law, between instances where countries just happen to be consistent with international law and instances where countries are actually in compliance with. In other words, have chosen to comply with and otherwise wouldn't be complying with. Because there's no enforcement mechanism, international law makes that distinction of instances. And in that way, do we, in fact, only have the moral high ground with international legality, unlike national legality, in which the legality is often in conflict with the moral high ground because it's actually enforced. There's a central authority figure who comes around and says, "You are now arrested for smoking marijuana." If the international law changes such that nuclear weapons are illegal, nobody's going to come arrest the United States or punish the United States for failing to follow that law. It is going to change the way that people argue, though. So when the United States goes to tell Iran not to get a nuclear weapon, they'll be able to reference that law. It's why can't you have one? Because it's illegal. In the status quo, we don't have an answer to why can't you have one, right? Keep in mind, I'm not actually advocating for making nuclear weapons illegal. I'm saying that this is what happens in a debate round, right? Is that people want to turn what you say into something easier to deal with. So they'll say, because y'all crazy. I mean, the thing is, it's especially after Trump, it's really easy for other countries to say, we're crazy. I mean, Trump, no matter what you personally think about Trump, the rest of the world thought he was a crazy, incompetent boob, I guess is the most positive way I could put it, you know? He assassinated an Iranian general. He, you know. Okay, well, Legends Fall, you may disagree with the rest of the world, but that is how the rest of the world sees him. I mean, what active fighting really ended under his look, I'm not, again, Legends Fall, let's not conflate his policies and his person. Not everything that Trump did was bad. I'm sure he did some good things as well. And you can agree or disagree with his policies, but nobody can sanely say that he treated ideas or policy matters as things that were nuanced, things that required discourse. He never considered his political opponents anything but animals and enemies. There was no sense of a thoughtful, deliberated, well-argued, well-positioned America. It was my hunch, my gut, my foot on the gas. And, you know, it's like no good thinking person is going to be okay with that. He's supposed to represent all of America, not just the people who support him, right? You might say other presidents were guilty of that too, but you can't reasonably claim that other presidents were as brazenly, openly, and directly guilty of it as Trump. That's just not being honest with yourself if you say that. I mean, he basically tweeted a bunch of shit talk in the medium in which he has the least possible actual capacity or responsibility to respond to anything, right? If he's supposed to be representing the citizens of America and he thinks half of them are scumbags, that's a problem. You know, as I pointed out before, the United States is not nearly as polarized as it thinks it is. It's not nearly as divided as it thinks it is. The average American, wherever they live, whatever their politics, expresses in their actions and their goings about of their business very similar values. There aren't any Americans who favor injustice, you know? Everybody's claiming they have the best claim to justice. There's not anybody in America who's saying, I want to see this portion of America suffer. Well, Trump was clearly enough saying that. I mean, again, Legends Fall, what I'm saying about Trump is not anything about my personal perceptions, right? I'm saying these are objective facts about him. To anybody who prioritizes an ability or willingness to talk things out, he seems really evil, right? Regardless of what your position on it is. It is the case that the rest of the world finds him an incompetent boob. That is the case. Whether they should or not is irrelevant, right? I'm not even talking about my positions now. It is the case that Trump completely failed to justify any of his policies in any meaningful way to any of the American people. Even when people agree with them, he didn't give good reasons. So even if you agreed with everything he was doing, because he didn't give you a good reason, that's reason enough to agree that he's not a good president. I mean, he had no business being president, right? That's not a president, that's a dictator. So the whole rest of the world is incompetent boobs and criminals, and me too. I mean, the thing is, I understand Trump for what he is, an embarrassment to the American democracy. At best, a horribly misguided patriot. At worst, an amoral semi-traitor. It's like, so am I crazy too? Because, I mean, I'm obviously not a AOC loving, red state hating taxocrat, right? You know, I'm not that guy. So it seems to me you're ignoring what I'm saying completely, right? You're talking, you keep going back to, well, this policy was good or that policy was good. Well, we could argue that all we want. That's why I'm not really pointing to policies, right? I'm saying it takes more than just policy making to be a leader. It takes more than just implementing your will to be a leader, right? What do you mean I'm suffering from a massive lack of information from which to judge the situation? I'm an American citizen judging the president of the United States. I am not lacking information. I'm vastly more informed than 99.999% of the population. And any claim to the contrary is pretend land. All right? Legends fall. I'm the most informed person you've ever met. Isn't that true? I mean, the context is he's president of the United States and should have acted like it, right? And we have understanding of what that means, what it means to be an adult, what it means to treat others like adults. And we have clear indications, plenty of examples of him failing to do that, failing to do his basic duty as president, his number one duty to represent his constituency. Failed to do that. Failed to protect America from his own buttfuckery. He was so bombastic, so divisive, so utterly unwilling to be humble, right? To recognize that he didn't necessarily know best, that not every fact that supported him was true and everything that didn't support him was false. And you know, it's like the guy did not engage with information in a meaningful way. And you should not excuse him for that. He has a responsibility to be a good human being and a good president if he's going to run for president in the first place. You know, of course, you can excuse him on the grounds he's an ESFP and didn't know any better. He can't help himself, but don't support him for God's sakes. I mean, that's just silly. Don't let Trump's somehow capturing of your soul here make you ignore facts, reality, argumentation. I mean, it's just silly. No, but no sane person thinks Trump was a good president, even if you think he was better than Hillary. And I'll say, I don't think it was a bad idea to vote for Trump over Hillary. If I had voted, I would have voted for Trump over Hillary. And by the end of Trump's presidency, I still wouldn't have regretted having done so because it was the right choice. Hillary was an absolute fucking nightmare. Okay, so you'll note I am not biased, right? I'm not arguing because I want it to be meow or meow. You are. If you're going to go in there to clean house, be new sheriff in town, you need to have the skills, right? You need to have, legends fall. I have heard you dodge and avoid and skip around everything I've said and continue to persist in your own arguments, even while I am being entirely responsive to what you're saying. So do not tell me you are not biased because the only other alternative is that you are stupid, and I know that's not the case. You know, lie to yourself all you want, but don't lie to me about it. If you were not biased, you'd be responsive to what I'm saying instead of running around it. Keep running around to your forehand, so to speak. I'm saying things that mean things. You should incorporate those meanings into your responses or be impacted by them in some fashion. Not just pretend that they weren't said. Hi, Ananova 5. What's going on? Well, we have ongoing going-ons and going-on ongoings. Which would you like to participate in? Would you like to take a gate to another world where magic reigns and elves and cat people live? Or would you like to take a gate to another land where pirates and ninjas fight all the time? You choose. Those are your two choices. Also, you have to have a perfect life. Otherwise, you get shamed. Right now, I'm shaming Legends Fall for his imperfect life. I mean, this is the thing. One of the most offensive things Trump ever did in his presidency was a time that I don't remember exactly what the policy was, but he made an argument, which was the correct one in that instance. I oppose this because it lacks a limiting principle. Talk about evil. There's a guy who has zero respect for limiting principles, except when it's convenient and happens to coincide with his position on something. In which case, somebody says to him, well, you actually have a good argument here. And he goes, okay, I'll throw that out there. Not recognizing that claiming to care about limiting principles should make clear to you that you need to actually have a limiting principle of some sort, right? I mean, I tell you who's definitely, I don't know anything about General Flynn, but nobody would ever accuse Trump of having integrity. The man has none. I mean, he's a bald-ass liar. He spent his entire presidency telling lies. I mean, when the DC swamp tries to take you out, you know you're really toxic. If even the swamp creatures are like, okay, this thing is fucking disgusting, then you know you really got a problem. When I go to Washington, people may try to snipe at me or whatever, but you're not going to see anything like this, right? Why won't you see anything like the vigorous anti-Trump response when I'm president? Why won't you? What's the difference between Trump and me? How is that ass backwards logic? It is the case that when I become president, I will face pushback from interest groups. That's true. But how will that play out so vastly differently than Trump did? Why will it play out so much better when I'm president than Trump? You answer the question, Legends Fall. Because you know it will, right? Okay, Legends Fall, again, this is proof of bias. You're ignoring what I'm saying. When people ignore what I say, it means they are attached to wrongness. It consistently means that. It's like almost a one-to-one correlation. Ignoring what I'm saying equals attached to wrongness. You either respond to what I'm saying or you acknowledge what I'm saying. You don't continue to run around it. The thing is, in your swamp metaphor or analogy or whatever you want to call it, either of our analogous metaphorical presentations there is equally valid. Neither of them is logical at all. So to say that the swamp monsters kicked Trump out because he was too disgusting for the swamp is just as logical as to say the swamp monsters kicked Trump out because he was trying to clean up the swamp. They're both metaphors. So neither of them has any logical legitimacy. If that's what you're saying my ass backwards logic is, My point is, when I go, let's say Trump was well-intentioned and was going to try to clean up that swamp. Why will it go so much better? No, but Legend's fault. You're not answering my questions. You're acting like somebody who's extremely biased. Why will it go so much better when I clean up the swamp? Why will that work whereas it didn't with Trump? What's the difference between me and Trump? Trump's a stupid fucking idiot, and I'm not. That's the biggest difference, right? I mean, I think I won't bring the swamp with me, right? I'm not bringing a bunch of controversy. I'm not bringing a bunch of baggage or whatever. And I go in explicitly saying what my job is. My job is to represent the citizens of this country and to restore the principled hegemon that America ought to be, which is not the way it has been in a long time. That the citizen democracy needs to understand itself a lot better, right? Absolutely, I've met the citizens of this country. I've traveled all around. If you want, check out in the channel Mission Detroit. You'll see I travel all around the country. My last stop is Detroit, Michigan, where I meet up with a guy who I'd never seen before, but I had talked to, heard his voice before, named Unify, and I met up with him in a hotel room in the MGM Grand, and we hung out and had dinner, and it was a trip that took me a few weeks, I guess, to get all the way across country and back. I stopped and met many people from the channel. And that's not the only time I've been across country. I've been all over the country. There's a few states I haven't been to. I haven't been to North Dakota. I haven't been to Maine. I haven't been to New Hampshire. I haven't been to Rhode Island. I haven't been to Delaware. I haven't been to Massachusetts. I have been through most of the South, New York, Virginia. Not been to South Carolina, I don't think. And I don't think I've even been to Florida, but I've been to Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, Tennessee, Arkansas, Texas, Arizona, Nevada, Ohio, Michigan, Idaho. No. Yeah. Where's Des Moines? Iowa, not Idaho. Iowa. I've not been to Idaho. I've not been to Montana. The thing is, I'm going to be vastly more accessible to. I will be met with resistance from a corrupt system, but the thing is, it's really difficult for bad people to deal with me because I'm so what I appear to be, and I'm not. I don't have any. There are not a lot of handholds on me, right? To control me with, and I'm not to be fooled. It's just not really possible. Whatever bullshit you got, my response to it is to hold it up for everyone to see and explain why it's bullshit. I mean, my central thesis about world affairs is this, that as long as we can sustain freedom of expression as a primary value and transparency as a primary goal, we'll be fine. It's when we lose those key mechanisms of accountability that the world goes to shit. That's when totalizing agendas become totalitarianism. So it's like one of the worst things about Trump was the damage he did to the marketplace of ideas, the damage he did to the idea of discourse. He's shitting on it in a way that encouraged the Democrats to double down on the groupism shit, you know? It's just everybody's doubling down. Both sides are wrong. When people double down when they're wrong, it fucking pisses me off. It's like, it's fine to be wrong. I get it. Don't double down when you're wrong. Don't then go, okay, no, here's more reasons why I'm wrong. It's like, I've already explained to you why you're wrong about something. Don't double down. You know, if you had an answer and you were right, then you've given me that answer and I've corrected my position on it. Are there any other kind of fisting, Sky Gear? I think all fistings are romantic. What I like to do before a good fisting is put on that song from Toy Story 2. When somebody loved me, everything was beautiful. Then you shoved your fist up in my butt. When I got fisted through the summer and the fall, you fisted me and that was all. Your fist was covered with my poo. Remember that song from Toy Story 2? When the red-haired freckled girl sang that song about fisting? I agree being president will be exhausting. That's why I'm only going to do it for 4 years. I'm a one-term president. I'm not going to do 2 terms. I don't hate golf, but I'm not very good at it. There are some things I'm looking forward to doing as president. I'm looking forward to finding some excuse to go to Japan, for example, and hang out in Tokyo for a while. Some sort of international shit that I got to talk about or whatever. And meeting with some otaku podcasts and being interviewed by them. That's really the one thing that I kind of think, gosh, that'll be nice. I get to go to Japan for free. I will figure out some important international shit that I got to deal with in Japan. Okay, I'm not just going to. I'm just gonna go there just to go hang out and buy anime stuff. I'm gonna have a reason. Okay, some sort of trans-Pacific treaty thing. I don't know. We'll figure it out. I mean, I think it's important for everybody to remember the main reason why Trump won. The main reason why Trump won the primaries was because the Republicans had a bunch of fucking scrubs, including Trump. And Trump is good enough at SE that he could expose the scrubs for what they are, scrubs. It's like, can you imagine Trump trying his techniques on me? I'd rip him to fucking pieces. He would be sobbing on the ground. There's no way I would allow that retard to get away with his bullshit, And then in the general election, why did Trump win? Because he was up against the least electable candidate possibly in all of American history, Hillary Clinton. I mean, for good reason why she was very unelectable. I'm glad she wasn't elected. I mean, that's the problem, Nova 5, is that Trump did not talk a lot. He didn't talk at all. He tried to limit his communication as much as possible because none of it withstood any scrutiny. A president should talk a lot. They should explain what they're doing to the American people. After all, they represent them. When I'm president, first of all, being president is not just a meme in any sense of the word. President has a lot of a lot of power, you know, especially with the current court's understanding of presidential executive orders. I mean, he expressed his position on things, and then that was the end of the engagement. You know, he expressed his, what would I invest in? I mean, it's not the job of the president to invest in things. Are you saying, do I have a legislative agenda for tax dollars? Is that what you're asking me? I mean, the president's got a lot of explaining to do, doesn't he? Isn't he supposed to be accountable to 400 million people? I mean, economically, we're not really in a position right now to be spending tax dollars on things. But I understand that it's not the president's job to write legislation. That a lot of presidents come out with a legislative agenda. Mine is very limited in scope. So I do have one specific thing that I'd like the federal government to spend money on, which is I'd like to see the federal government take over the Salton Sea from California, make it a federal park, and put a desalination plant there. Keep it at 1940s level of salinity, stock it with ocean fish like it used to be, and return it to what it once was, which was the single greatest fishing spot in the world. And make it free to go there. I don't want people to have to pay in general to go to parks and stuff, because that's what their tax dollars paid for, right? Like, I'm not a believer in these diamond lanes here in California either. I don't like the fact that now some of the diamond lanes are fast track pay lanes. Every taxpayer has equal claim to the roads. Why are the salt levels up? Well, because it's not a naturally occurring lake. The Salton Sea occurred at the beginning of the 20th century as an accident of human engineering, where they were trying to divert some water from the Colorado River and accidentally broke open the side of the Colorado River and caused it to fill the Salton Sink, which is an area that had been filled multiple times before by equivalent naturally occurring river redirections, I guess, and then dried up again because it has no natural occurring water inlet, right? But since then, since it filled up that sink, it's gotten increasingly salty. For a stretch of years between the 40s and the 70s, it was stocked with ocean fish. Somebody down like in 1940 went and got a bunch of different kinds of ocean fish, but no sharks, and put them in the Salton Sea, and they just bred like wildfire. And there were some of the best fishing in the world was in the Salton Sea in the 40s, where you could get big ass ocean fish on this saltwater lake, right? The thing is, then it became, with the expansion of people taking over various natural areas and stuff, the Salton Sea became a very important wetland stop for migratory birds and stuff. But of course, with agricultural runoff and no natural inlet of fresh water, and the only additions of fresh water coming from rain, which is infrequent in the area of Salton Sea, it became over salty. And eventually there were these successive years of die-offs where each year a huge hundreds of millions of fish would die and then go off to the shore. And then as the temperature cooled and the oxygen levels in the water got better, then they'd come back in the next year, and then they'd die again. So now if you go down the Salton Sea, all along the shore, there are fish bones. All the seashore of the whole Salton Sea is fish bones. It used to be like an up and coming kind of resort area, California's French Riviera, they called it for a stretch of time. Back in the 40s and 50s, it was quite the resort hotspot, and then it became increasingly sort of toxic and gross. Now it's like you're not allowed to go out on the Salton Sea anymore. You can't fish there. There aren't any fish. There are very few birds ever stop there. And the thing is, it's like, look, let's take advantage of this opportunity that this human-made disaster created a long time ago. It is very beneficial to everybody to have this massive, salty, freshwater lake in the middle of the desert here. It's very, very beneficial to all these birds, very beneficial to people who like to go fishing. And all we need to do to fix this problem is put a desalination plant in there, desalinate it back to the proper levels, and then maybe do some other kind of water purification. I want to see. Well, I mean, I don't have any faith in California doing anything with it, so I want the federal government to take it over. But California has fumbled this football for the last 20 years, more than that, last 30 years, last 40 years, and they have had plenty of time with the football. Okay, they've been fumbling it for 40 straight years. So fuck California fixing the Salton Sea. The federal government under a Strauss administration. This is my one minor piece of a legislative agenda that I have. The reason I have this legislative agenda is, number one, it shouldn't be very expensive. Number two, it's a one-time kind of expense that, other than that, can pay for itself with some campground fees, perhaps. You know, it's like I don't want entry fees to get onto the lake and stuff, but you know, some campground fees to sustain some National Park Service stuff. Okay, fine. You know, it's like it can be basically self-sustaining. And it's good for the environment, for birds and stuff. It's good for sportsmen, fishermen and stuff. They can fish a population of fish that you can sort of feel okay about fishing. It's like these ocean fish don't belong here anyway. So like, there aren't like wild species of naturally occurring tuna in the ocean that are getting depleted or whatever in the Salton Sea because of the temperature is so high in the water. If you get basically an aquarium pump in there, it becomes incredibly rich breeding ground for ocean fish, and you can have this incredible sport fishing area. It'll boost the local economy. That's secondary concern for a national matter, but it's this fantastic, crazy ghost town place now. If you go down there, there's buildings, all the buildings are abandoned. You can go in them, they've got a graffiti and like crack pipes around and stuff, and the whole place has been abandoned. There's still some hangers on in a couple of little towns around there, old people who remember the old days back when Salton Sea was fun and stuff like that, but mostly it's just abandoned, completely abandoned. And like I said, you can't go anywhere around the Salton Sea, anywhere on the shore where the shore is not comprised entirely of fish bones, like layers of fish bones. This deep for all the successive die-offs. And they had the big bird die-off back in the late 80s, I think it was, where the birds all got botulism and died. It's like, come on, let's fix this thing. You know, Salton Sea, because I went fishing on the Salton Sea when I was a kid, when I was really young. It's one of my earlier memories was catching a fish on the Salton Sea. I was probably like 3 years old or something. And I don't think we really went down there after that as it started getting grosser, you know? So anyway. Okay. Legends Fall. I don't approve of Biden signing a bunch of executive orders. So I do think that Trump acted like a dictator. I think that's a fair criticism of him. He didn't accept election results that were legally binding, certified, right? So there's nothing else to say about it. Whether you think it was stolen or not, if it was stolen, it was successfully stolen, and he has an obligation as president to abide by the law. You know, his failure to do so, his undignified exit is just. He really just had to just extra smear his shit all over the office of the presidency before he left, didn't he? You know, just so despicable. What makes a functioning free society, the peaceful transfer of power. Even when your favorite guy in the world, Legends Fall, loses. No, I don't have to think Biden is a good president to argue this. I don't have to approve of Biden's executive orders to argue this. In fact, I don't think Biden is a qualified president. I agree with you that he only sort of knows what he's signing, and I don't like the use of executive orders in general. But if you were serious about it, you would have actually investigated what is the scope and scale of those executive orders. Are they ones that expand the existing precedent regarding the legitimate scope, or are they ones that adhere to the existing precedent? Is a significant question, right? Because what we want to do is prevent more expansive powers, not more instances of power usage. I mean, Legends Fall, again, remember, I was the one who explained right off the bat when it came to this election, I'm sure you agreed with me too at the time, that Biden was not qualified to be president because of his dementia. Okay? So it's not like I am opposing Trump and what he did and his bad behavior and his horrible presidency because I am a Democrat who loves Biden. Do you understand, Legends Fall, that what you're saying about Biden is not relevant to what we're saying about Trump? Irrelevant. I mean, the insurrection. To call it an insurrection is to not care very much about the word insurrection. Those were riots.
Yeah, they were.
Do I think the CIA played a role in the rioting? I mean, I have no reason to think so. But it's not, I wouldn't put it out of the range of possibilities. The CIA is, after all, an organization whose job it is to conspire. So that they would be involved in a conspiracy should not be surprising, right? I'm going to end this shortly.
Excuse me?
I'm going to end this live stream shortly.
Oh, take your time. I am going to the fridge for something.
All right, you do your thing, baby. Okay. You look like a red-eyed McGee. Did you eat one of those gummies?
No, I haven't. I look red-eyed? Oh, well, I did. I used a lot of soap to take off my makeup.
Well, I mean, what's his fault? The thing is, what I said was, it wouldn't be shocking to see the CIA be involved in some conspiracy. They're an organization that conspires. I don't think anybody was doubting that people planned to go there and protest, riot, whatever. You know, nobody's saying it wasn't planned. People definitely were communicating with each other, planning to go there, right? That's not surprising. It's hard to get a large group of people to show up without some sort of planning. I mean, they were probably misbehaving.
That happens.
You know? From what I understand, Antifa people are unprincipled. Like they don't ascribe to a means-based approach at all. They're kind of like by whatever means necessary. Who's they? Antifa? Antifa is not the CIA. So Antifa was planning planning to riot to make it look like conservatives were at fault or something. Yeah, I mean, I agree. Both you and the other guys are fucked up for playing this stupid team game. I agree. Used by whom? By Trump? Paid by whom? This is a bagel with cream cheese. Were the conservative protesters paid by Trump? And so, let me get this right, Legends Fall. The pro-Trump people were peaceful and naturally occurring. But the anti-Trump people were paid by conspiring deep state criminals. Is that correct? Is that your position? That there aren't any legitimate anti-Trump people in the country, or what? That Antifa couldn't come up with by themselves this idea of making conservatives look bad? No, I'm not. I'm not ignoring that. I mean, both sides gather, right? There were lots of Black Lives Matter gatherings too. Both people who identify as leftists and people who identify as Trump supporters, they both gather, right? And people who hate Trump gathered for anti-Trump protests too, right? And so let's say you're right that all of the violence was done by the anti-Trump people. Okay. So in this side, one team protested properly and the other didn't. Okay. If that's what you say, sure. I mean, I don't know about you, but if I'm getting punched in the head by somebody, there's a decent chance I'm going to at least push back or something. So, I mean, even if it was all provoked, I seriously doubt that every pro-Trump person there was also an advocate of nonviolent civil disobedience. I mean, people do have the right to self-defense. So, I mean, it's like you're not being rational about this at all, right? We both know that, yes, anti-Trump people gather too and protest too. We also both know that if you get some anti-Trump people protesting and some pro-Trump people protesting, they're going to start yelling at each other and stuff, right? Now you're saying, well, that's not what happened here. They were pretending to be pro-Trump people, but they were acting like thugs to make it pro-Trump people look bad. Okay. That doesn't require some sort of super genius behind the scenes paying people. Could be the anti-Trump people are just that amoral or immoral or whatever you want to call them, you know? Wicked, uncaring about their means, ends based like you, and they're thinking instead of reason based. Like it doesn't matter what I say to you. You're convinced that whatever. Even though what I'm saying makes perfectly good sense, right? The criminals who wanted to impeach him for insurrection. I mean, but look, Legends Fall, doesn't it just make perfectly good sense? Do you need that part of the story for it to make sense? Couldn't it just be Antifa people by themselves coming up with this idea and wanting to make Trump supporters look bad? Even if you're right about all the details, why the extra layer of storytelling? And there's no reason for it, right? It's just arbitrary. No, because you don't know where the deep state secret. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, dude, whatever. I mean, if that's there, I'll find out when I become president. I'll make sure I inform everybody about everything that's going on. No, the difference, Legends Fall, is that you aren't thinking negationarily about it. You're thinking affirmationally about it. In other words, you're looking for ways to affirm your position. And that's always a wrong way to determine what your position should be. Instead, you have to look at ways to negate every piece of information you encounter. I was discussing this earlier about how important it is that the person who's trying to make a case establish and demonstrate that their primary interest is approaching the question from a disinterested calculus. You're clearly not doing so because look, Legends Fall, this is the thing. You're definitely not doing so because of one reason, if not any other. Just because of one reason. We know this much to be true. You keep avoiding what I'm saying. We know that. And that's really all we need to know. Because whenever somebody keeps avoiding what I'm saying while I'm responding to what they're saying, we know for sure they are clinging to their wrongness. So even if you think that everything I'm saying is wrong, the fact that you're not responding to what I'm actually saying is the strongest evidence we have that you're full of shit. Thanks for watching Talking with Famous People, and don't forget to eat plenty of cheese.